Hey, kids in ancient Civ. So I have been hearing that there are internet issues out there, and so I wanted to make a very short version of what we discussed in Zoom today. If you weren't able to make it, this probably won't be quite as good. It won't be as detailed. All right. To be honest, I just don't have the time today between Zoom calls to make a real detailed one. Here's the quick synopsis. Okay. We so far this trimester have talked about early nomadic humans. They're wandering around, searching for food. Then we yesterday learned about how humans learn to farm. Now we're trying to get humans up to the level of what's called civilization. Okay, complex ways of living together, right, would be called a civilization. And then the goal is the rest of the trimester to study these different civilizations that are formed thousands of years ago, right? The Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Chinese. Okay. Now there are 6 characteristics that a group of people must meet to be called a civilization. Today, we're looking at the first 3. They're probably the most complex. And then tomorrow, we'll look at the last 3. So here you go. Number 1, first, you need people to be living in cities. Okay. 2 things to think about that. First, that means that your farmers need to be incredibly productive. Okay. If you're going to have most people live in a city, that means they're not farming. They're not growing their own crops. So you need the farmers to be really, really productive to feed all these extra people that aren't farming. How do you do that? Well, you probably are going to have your civilization form along a rich river valley. And the reason it's rich is down here, letter A, because these rivers would flood every year. And when they flood, they're going to leave behind what's called silt. Okay, it's really small microscopic pieces of dirt. And that dirt hasn't been farmed. It's rich in nutrients. And it's left on the top of your farm fields and, in essence, fertilizes your farm. Okay, and that's how you can have much bigger populations and those populations living in cities where they're not farming. Now, if you can live in a city and you don't have to farm, then you probably are going to be able to do what's called job specialization. Okay, and that is where people that don't farm now learn a new skill. And they start to share that skill with each other to get better goods and services and products. So the farmer grows wheat and trades it to the blacksmith to get a new farm plow. Maybe the blacksmith makes some new tools for the potter, right, who's making pottery. And the potter makes some pottery for the tailor who's making clothes, right? And they're all exchanging goods and services, and they're really good at it, right? They have time to get good at that one skill, and then they can get all the other things that they need for life from these other people, okay? We do that today. We just happen to use money to make it much easier and more convenient for us, but we're just trading skills and specialties, right? When I get paid as a teacher, that's my specialty. I get take that money, and then I go buy food at the grocery store. I buy a new car. I get my snowblower repaired, right? I'm exchanging specialties with other people. Now, the other thing that happens with that, though, kind of a negative, people are no longer viewed as equals because they're not all farming, they're not all hunting. So we have levels in society that develop now in a civilization. Okay, and I'm not saying this is right, but some jobs are viewed as more important or more prestigious than others now. Okay, it's just one of the trade-offs of having a good piece of civilization. There's also a bad that goes along with it. Okay, so cities, job specialization. All right, third, you need to have a written language. Early written languages, guys, were boring. Okay, they just were used to keep track of information. They didn't write fun stories. Maybe to keep track of an important prayer. Maybe how many bushels of grain did I grow last year, right? So I can keep track of if I'm more productive or not. How many taxes did each person in the city pay? Okay, boring stuff. Now, the first languages were pictogram. Okay, here's a definition down here. It's when you use a symbol or a word to stand, a symbol or a picture to stand for a whole word. But that's kind of clunky, to be honest. And after a couple thousand years, we have phonetic languages. So that's English today, right? We take different letters, we mix them together, and based on those different mixtures, we form different words. Okay, that's phonetic. So pictogram versus phonetic. So I want to zero in quickly on what do these look like, all right? So let me go up here and, all right, how about this? So on the left is English, okay, it's phonetic. On the right is Albanian. This is also phonetic. They just tend to mix their letters in different ways to make the different sounds in Albanian, right? But they're both phonetic. They use letters. Now, don't get tricked though. What do you do, or how do you know if a language is phonetic if its letters maybe look different than English letters? Well, let me show you. This is Russian. This is also phonetic. Okay, they just happen to have letters that we don't use in English, right? Or that we don't have in English. So there's a couple that are the same, like M, they have that similar E, T, but then like, what the heck is this? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, right? So they use a different alphabet. It's called the Cyrillic alphabet, whereas we use the English alphabet. So that also is phonetic. All right, pictogram. Let's go to Chinese. Okay, so Chinese is pictogram. There's two ways you can tell. One, the symbols are much more complex. Okay, letters tend to be very simple and easy to write. Pictures and symbols much more complex and more moving parts there, obviously. Second big difference. This is the dead giveaway. Pictogram languages never will have spaces in them because each symbol is its own word, right? So you don't need spaces between the words. You just know, okay, this is a word, this is a word, this is a word, this is a word. Whereas in English, we need spaces so that we know where each word picks up and ends. Okay, that's the dead giveaway, phonetic, pictogram. All right, so those are your three factors, guys, okay? You need to live in cities, you need to have job specialization, and you need to have a written language. Okay, those are the three factors that we're learning about today. Now, assignment today. This is all in this handout that we just discussed. You need to go ahead and do this assignment. It's pretty short to see if you paid attention during the Screencastify or during the Zoom session. And then you also need to do this thing down here called the week 1 progress check. This will not be graded, but I want you to take this as if it's a quiz so that we both know what we're learning and whether we need to review anything next week. Okay, so your assignment, Characteristics of Civilization, you can look at the handout, you can come back to this video, okay? This one, though, I want you to do with no resources. Just try it as if it's a quiz. You'll get a score from Schoology, but I will not put it into the gradebook. But I want to know what we're learning, and I want to know if we have to review things, okay? All right. Again, sorry about internet issues. If you have questions or whatever, feel free to email or text me, okay? Hope you have a good rest of the day.